Hello everyone, you are on the Jin Fiction channel. Before we start, please give a like and subscribe to the channel. I would be grateful to everyone. Also, subscribe on Boosty. Enjoy watching.
Chapter 1. The Beginning. All starts at Land of Iron, where the grandchild of one of the greatest shinobi ever to live is about to be born, the son of Takumi, the grandchild of Madara Uchiha. Madara Uchiha, in his last battle with his lifetime rival Hashirama Senju, kept a great secret. He had a lover outside the village. Miko was a beautiful woman with black hair and a slender but healthy figure. In his last days with her, with the knowledge that his upcoming battle may be his last, the cold and uncaring Madara expressed his love for his lover Miko by having one last night of passion. The result of this night of passion resulted in something that not even Madara had the knowledge of. He leave his lover Miko pregnant. Miko, knowing that Madara may never return, run away from the Land of Fire towards the Land of Iron, knowing that if someone suspects that she is carrying the child of Madara, the greatest traitor of the Leaf, she will be brought to the Leaf and have her child murdered for fear of him becoming another Madara. Miko had a good life at the Land of Iron, living like a civilian. No one ever suspect that she was carrying the son of Madara. When Miko gave birth to a boy, she decided to name him Takumi in honor of her father, because little Takumi had at birth a mop of golden hair and wide blue eyes, lust like her father. The days of Takumi passed peacefully and happy like any kid should have. Everything was fine with Miko and Takumi until the day that Miko died from old age, and in that moment she revealed Takumi his heritage, of how his father was Madara Uchiha, how they met and how he left for his last battle with Hashirama Senju. Needless to say that Takumi was fuming. How dare his father leave his mother alone just for his stupid goal of revenge? He was so angry that he awakened the Sharingan, and the Sharingan with one Tomo was spinning wildly of anger. Seeing this, Miko on his dead bed gasped and explained that she never expected that he would awaken his Sharingan because he didn't have the looks of his father. With her last strength she explained the secrets of the Sharingan, and she told Takumi of everything that Madara told her before he left. How to evolve it, and the biggest secret of all, the Mangekyo Sharingan, and how to obtain it, and the drawbacks. Takumi was beyond shocked that Madara had to replace Sin eyes with Izuna's eyes. Takumi was so angry at the Uchiha clan, especially at Madara, that he swore upon his mother deathbed that he will never use the Sharingan and he will continue living like a civilian like her mother. Takumi tried to live a happy life, but like in every story, never happens like expected. War broke out. The second great shinobi war started and every country was involved. Even the Land of Iron had to defend itself. Takumi was a civilian, but even being a civilian did not save him of the war. He had to work as a blacksmith at the capital of the Land of Iron. In his days at the capital he met the woman that would be his future wife, Henna. Henna was a beautiful woman with short blonde hair, something uncommon in those areas. They met at the capital, working their best helping the samurais. They quickly fell in love and got married. During those days at the beginning of war, Takumi met his long-life best friend Mifune, a samurai that held talent like no other. Within the first year of marriage Henna got pregnant. Even in the time of war they managed to buy a little house at the capital where Takumi started his own business. He was one of the best blacksmiths in the whole Land of Iron, and his customer number one was his great friend Mifune. When the first year of the marriage arrived, Henna was 8 months pregnant, and they decided that they will make his great friend Mifune their son godfather. Needless to say that Mifune was ecstatic in joy when they give him the news. His two greatest friends were having a baby and they decided to make him the godfather. From that day forward Mifune was way too overprotective with Henna. Needless to say that Henna and Takumi were laughing their butts off at the odd behavior of the usually stoic and collected man. So the days passed with the same predicament till the day of the childbirth. The day of the birth arrived and Takumi was pacing like crazy around the house. If Henna was not having contractions she would be laughing at his husband's behavior. Finally they arrived at the hospital and Mifune was already waiting them at the entrance. Hours pass and finally Mifune that was waiting outside of the room heard the cries of the little baby. When Takumi got out of the room and told him to follow, when they entered the room Mifune could do nothing to hide his wide grin at seeing his friends so happy and the little baby in Henna's arms. He got close and asked, "So what's the little guy's name?" Henna that finally noted the presence of Mifune smiled and said, "His name is Naruto." She told him his name while she was playing with his son. Little finger, getting a giggle of the toddler. Days passed and everything was great. Little Naruto was healthy as it gets and spending the whole of the day either with his mother or sleeping. Like every baby, he was driving his parents insane at nights and eating as much as he could at day. Mifune only managed to visit the little guy every 2 to 3 weeks, having recently promoted to Grand Samurai of the Iron Country. The title of Grand Samurai of the Iron Country, it's like the Hokage of the hidden villages. The years passed and the war continued. Naruto was a happy 4-year-old kid, with golden sun-kissed hair, bright blue eyes as deep as the ocean. He was tall for a kid his age, almost a head taller than any other kid, but he was not like the other kids. He was smarter, so smart that was ridiculous. He started to walk at the age of 9 months, started to speak at the age of 10 months, but nothing showed his intelligence more than the time he was allowed to play outside. Any other kid when playing outside would started to play with the grass, a toy or something normal. But Naruto was a normal kid. The first time he was allowed to play outside alone was when he was 4-year-old. That day showed the greatness of this child. The first thing he did was observe how the animals run, how they hide, how the ants work, how the frogs hunt. He was still for the good of 30 minutes. His father and mother were starting to get worried. Henna was about to call out Naruto to see what's wrong, but what she saw stopped her. Naruto, having seen enough, was starting to copy the movements of one little frog that was trying to hunt, but no, exactly the same. He was standing still behind a tree, in the foliage. The moment he saw a little bird starting to fly, he knew that it did not have the long tongue of the frog, but there he grabbed a stone and with an accuracy that he should not have hit the bird's head dead on target and the bird fall to the ground. His parents were gaping at what Naruto did, about to scold him, but Naruto turned around and they almost faint. Naruto said, "To-san, Ka-san, why was the bird so slow?" There, without any reason, Naruto stood looking at his parents with one tomo in each eye. Henna was confused at ever, but Takumi was lost in thoughts. How he awakened his Sharingan so early, it's almost stupid. How early did he awaken it? But one name stuck in his head, the explanation of his mother of Madara Uchiha, and maybe, just maybe, Naruto had the strongest blood of Madara flowing between his veins. A 2-year-old kid that didn't even unlock his chakra awaken his Sharingan. With only one thing in his mind, he grabbed Naruto and Henna and he run to his house. Within the house, Takumi sat Naruto and told him in a stern voice, "Naruto, do you feel like you see things different?" Naruto was a little put off by the question, but focusing on his surroundings and remembering the park, he told his dad, "To-san, I see everything slow. The same happened at the park." Takumi was thinking of something and asked Naruto, "Naruto, do you remember when did you started seeing things slow?" Meanwhile, Henna was silently listening the conversation between father and son, already figuring out what her husband was thinking because Takumi already told Henna everything about his past and she was connecting the dots. Naruto was thinking of when did he started seeing things like that, remembered how he stared at the frog and then hit him. "I was watching the frog, and I wanted to see exactly how it hunt. And there everything changed, everything became slow, and I could see exactly what I wanted." Takumi was impressed with the sheer talent of his son and afraid that with war going and no sign of stopping, that his son would be caught at war and die unprepared. With that line of thought, he said goodbye to Henna and Naruto and got out of the house. Naruto was scared that he did something bad and asked, "Ka-san, did I did something wrong?" He asked with tears at the corner of his eyes. Henna quickly reached out and hugged her son and told him, "You did nothing wrong, Naruto, your To-san just had something to do." Naruto happily accepted her answer and hugged her back. "Thank you, Ka-san." Henna smiled softly and told Naruto, "Naruto, let's get ready for dinner, your To-san will return to dinner." And with a soft nod, Naruto got up and followed his mother to the kitchen. Takumi ran to the fortress as fast as he could to speak with Mifune, the only one he could count on. When he reached the fortress, he ran into Mifune's office and entered without knocking and said, "Mifune, I need your help with something important." Mifune, startled by the sudden presence, quickly refocused at hearing problems, worrying that something happened to his godson or his friends, said, "Takumi, what happened? Is something wrong with Naruto or Henna?" Takumi quickly responded, "Something happened, but you got to see it. Follow me to my house." Mifune accepted the request and swiftly ran towards Takumi's house. When they arrived at Takumi's house, they quickly entered the house and started to look for Naruto and Henna. Upon arriving at the kitchen, they found they happily as ever. Henna was cooking dinner and Naruto was waiting patiently for the food. Hearing the noise of people coming, Naruto turned around to see Mifune and his father at the doorstep. He happily gave them a wave and a happy grin with his still red eyes wide open. Mifune, not expecting something like this, almost faint, but he managed to get himself together and stared at those red eyes. Takumi, seeing the expression of his friend, managed to get a little laugh before speaking sternly to Naruto. "Naruto, could you explain the same that you told me and Yuka-san earlier?" Naruto, not seeing a problem, told Mifune everything that he told his parents earlier. Needless to say that Mifune was dumbfounded at what Naruto told him. This kid, his godson, had unbelievable talent. To awaken to Sharingan at such an early age just because he wanted was nothing short of genius. He rapidly took glances to Takumi and understood why he was here. Takumi wanted training for Naruto, and the only one that can train him or see a way to train him was him. Mifune already knew of Takumi's legacy, so he didn't need to ask why he unlocked the Sharingan. Mifune stood up and ruffled Naruto's hair and told him, "Such a story, little guy, now let me talk to your father a moment." Henna, having heard the conversation, glanced to Mifune and gave him a nod before took Naruto's hand and told him, "Come on Naruto, let's wash up before dinner." Naruto gave her a wide smile before following his mother. Mifune then turned around and addressed Takumi and said to him, "You want the boy to be trained?" It was not a question, it was a statement that Takumi could only nod to. "Okay, first of all we have to unlock his chakra so he can turn down the Sharingan." Takumi nodded in agreement to his friend's words. Then Mifune continued, "We need to train him in shinobi arts just as much as in kenjutsu. It's his legacy after all. If we were not at time of war he could continue to be just a civilian, but with war at the doorstep we cannot give him that choice." Takumi knew that his son would not have a life like he did, and then again he coursed his own blood for giving him more problems. "Alright Mifune, he need to be trained, but there are no shinobis in Land of Iron." Mifune nodded in understanding. He knew that Naruto needed shinobi training if they wanted to bring the boy's potential afloat. "You are right Takumi, and I think I know the solution to that problem. I will send a letter to the Hokage. How better to train Naruto than an Uchiha?" Takumi quickly understood that he was right, so he only gave a nod to his old friend. Some moment later Henna and Naruto came back and Mifune walked to Naruto and told him, "Naruto, I need to teach you something very important to your future. Come with me." Naruto lit up like a light bulb and run after Mifune. He loved to learn new things and he knows that Mifune is a very powerful warrior, so without further ado he followed after Mifune to the backyard. Henna was confused by the events, so he went to Takumi and asked him what happened, and Takumi explained everything to his wife and went after Mifune and Naruto. Mifune and Naruto were on the backyard. Mifune turned around to see Naruto and he told him, "Naruto, please sit still, I will teach you what is chakra." Naruto quickly obeyed and sit with a startled expression and asked Mifune, "Uncle Mifune, what is chakra?" Mifune too took a sit in front of Naruto and started speaking. "Naruto, chakra is an energy that flow within us. This energy is made of physical and spiritual energy. This energy help us do amazing feats such as walk on trees, walk on water, and even more strange things like the eyes you have now." Naruto was gaping like a fish, learning that something so wonderful exists, but quickly picked something up. "So are you saying that thanks to this chakra I see everything so slow?" Mifune understood what Naruto was asking and replied, "Yes Naruto, your eyes are something called the Sharingan. These eyes of yours are special because only the people with the same blood as yours can have them. Only your family can have them." Naruto was surprised by this fact but quickly turned around and saw his father watching him and Mifune, and then he saw him nod the unasked question. Naruto understood and turned back to Mifune. "Okay Naruto, now that you understand the theory behind chakra I want you to learn how to unlock it." Naruto quickly nodded, already prepared to do whatever was needed. "Now Naruto, sit still and close your eyes." Naruto did as he was told and closed his eyes and listened intently. "Now Naruto, I want you to relax and search for something warm. When you feel it I want you to pull it to the surface." Naruto understood and started searching for what Mifune told him. After 10 minutes Naruto felt something and with no hurry started to pull the warm feeling to the surface. Mifune, Takumi and Henna were gasping at what they saw. From Naruto there was a thin layer of white chakra. Mifune was gaping because chakra should be blue and should not be this easy to unlock, but snapping to reality he rushed to Naruto and broke his concentration. "Naruto, stop, you already did it." Snapping to reality Naruto saw Mifune and asked Nod. Mifune calming down asked Naruto, "Alright Naruto, you did it way faster than expected. Now I want you to cut the flow of the chakra to your eyes. If you do it correctly you will see everything at the same speed as normal." Naruto nodded to what he said and tried a couple of times before finally succeeding in opening his eyes. They were back to the usual ocean blue. Mifune, seeing that he finally did it, spoke to Naruto. "Good job Naruto, you did it. Now that is late, let's eat dinner and go to sleep. Tomorrow we will continue training." Naruto stood up and nodded happily. Everyone had a happy dinner at the end of the night. Naruto told Mifune before he left, "Thanks for everything Uncle Mifune, let's learn more tomorrow." And with that said he quickly gave him a hug before going to his mother so he can tuck him in for the night. Mifune before leaving the house turned to Takumi and said, "Takumi, I will see the matter of the training and will send the letter tonight. I will come back tomorrow afternoon for the rest of the explanation," and with that he left with a wave to his friend. Mifune arrived at his office and gave a tired sight and thought back to his day with everything happening with Naruto. He will be having a long days from today forward. He sat on his chair and started writing a letter to the Hokage of Konoha. Hokage Dono. I sent this letter with a request. Recently there have been a new development in relationship of one of the kids in the fortress. The kid in question is called Naruto and he awakened an unusual bloodline. This matter must be treated with maximum secrecy because of the lineage of this child. I request an instructor to teach the child. I know that the request is really outlandish in this times of war, but nonetheless it's with most urgency I ask you this. I know that we can come to an agreement on this topic if you are willing to make ideal I could reveal his lineage to you and come to some sort of agreement with regards the instructor. My regards Hokage Dono. Mifune Grand Samurai of Iron. Land of Fire, Konoha. In Konoha there is one little girl named Kushina Uzumaki. Kushina is the daughter of the Uzukage. She was hailed as the princess of Uzu, but because she has an especial type of chakra she was taken to Konoha to be the new Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. The last Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi was Mito Uzumaki, the wife of the Shadaime Hokage. Mito was still alive till last year where she herself sealed the Kyuubi to Kushina, a little red-headed girl with round face and beautiful purple eyes. She told Kushina that the only way to keep the Kyuubi at bay is with love, and when she finds love like the one she had with Hashirama, she will be able to control and submit the Kyuubi. Kushina at hearing the news of leaving Uzu was destroyed. She had to leave her parents to an unknown land. The worst of all was when she arrived at Konoha and Mito told her that she will be housing a demon within the seal. She was devastated, she cried for days, and with the death of Mito, her only blood relative at Konoha, she felt completely alone and sad, but everything got worse the next year after the sealing of the Kyuubi. Uzu was destroyed, the people killed and the only survivors lost. At hearing the news that her native land, her parents and all her family were destroyed and dead, she was destroyed even considering killing herself. She was only a 4-year-old little girl and everything that she knew was gone and she was all alone. Her first hope of happiness was when the granddaughter of Mito arrived at the Senju compound, where she was living the lost year of her life. Senju Tsunade, the granddaughter of Hashirama Senju and Mito Uzumaki, was a beautiful woman, with pale long blonde hair. She had a great figure, wide hips and huge breasts bordering double D. Arriving at the Senju compound, Tsunade went to see the little girl named Kushina that was living there since last year. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage of Konoha, and the teacher of Tsunade Senju, Jiraiya and Orochimaru, told Tsunade of the girl and the death of Mito since Tsunade was all last year at war and couldn't came back at Konoha. At first she was sad that Mito died, but already knowing that Mito was way too old she understood and made peace with the death of Mito. The problem with little Kushina was that Hiruzen told her that she was the new Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and from the stories of Mito and news of what happened to Uzu she knew that Kushina must be devastated. Tsunade went to Kushina's room, hoping to talk to the little girl. Arriving at the door of her room she knocked and waited a moment for the door to open. Kushina was crying at her bed not knowing what to do with her life. Hearing someone knocking the door, she tensed and slowly got up from the bed and went to open the door. Kushina was beyond surprised that knocking the door was the most beautiful woman she had ever seen in her short life. Being a little tensed of the woman at the door she asked, "Who or you?" Tsunade first noticed that Kushina had red hair like his Mito, then she saw her beautiful purple eyes and the tears marks all over her face. Knowing that she must be crying, hearing the questing she bent down to eye level with Kushina, gave her a soft smile and told her, "I'm Tsunade Senju, Mito was my grandmother, you must be Kushina." Kushina hearing that this woman was related to Mito was surprised and told her a little afraid of Tsunade, "Why yes I too am." Tsunade hearing the fear in her voice quickly put a hand to her head and brought her for a hug. Kushina first flinch of fear to the woman, but quickly relaxed into the hug and got a feeling of warmth that she desperately needed and started feeling tears in the corner of her eyes, feeling the motherly hug that Tsunade was giving her. The last thing that Tsunade told her before Kushina cried her eyes out was, "Kushina-chan, you are no longer alone," and that did it for the little 4-year-old girl. The feeling of love, warmth and peace finally hit her and she cried till falling asleep. Hiruzen Sarutobi was having a great day. The paperwork finally finished, Tsunade finally back to take care of the little Kushina, and with the war going as planned, nothing could go better, so he was surprised when he received a letter of Land of Iron. The letter had the especial seal of Mifune, the ruler of Iron, so he opened the letter and it said, "Hokage Dono. I sent this letter with a request. Recently there have been a new development in relationship of one of the kids in the fortress. The kid in question is called Naruto and he awakened an unusual bloodline. This matter must be treated with maximum secrecy because of the lineage of this child. I request an instructor to teach the child. I know that the request is really outlandish in this times of war, but nonetheless it's with most urgency I ask you this. I know that we can come to an agreement on this topic if you are willing to make ideal I could reveal his lineage to you and come to some sort of agreement with regards the instructor. My regards Hokage Dono. Mifune Grand Samurai of Iron. Needless to say that Hiruzen was beyond surprised with the nature of the request. 1,000 thoughts were passing in his mind, so he did the only thing that he decided at that moment. He called an Anbu and told him, "Anbu, tell Orochimaru to come here right away." The Anbu quickly mutter a "hi" and disappear in a swirl of leaves. Orochimaru was something that people call a prodigy. He was adept with all the shinobi arts and was the favorite student of Hiruzen. He is a tall man with pale skin, black hair, slender build and yellow eyes, the same eyes as a snake. Orochimaru was lost in thoughts at one of the hospital labs. His favorite activity was researching new things, so when an Anbu popped in a swirl of leaves and told him that the Hokage was asking for him, he quickly put everything away and despaired in a shunshin body flicker of leaves. Feeling a presence appear at his office, Hiruzen addressed his student. "Orochimaru, glad that you are here. I have a problem that I may need your assistance. Please read this," and he passed the letter to Orochimaru. When he finally finished reading the letter, he told his sensei, "So sensei, do you have any idea which bloodline it is?" Hiruzen understood the question and replied, "No, I don't know, but if Mifune himself is asking this, then it must be something important. Also, hiding his lineage is something to take notice of." Orochimaru understood the point his sensei made, so he said, "So who are you going to send? Maybe we don't have an alliance with Iron Country, but the trade agreements with Iron is something we cannot risk, especially in times of war." Hiruzen agreed with his student with a nod, because without the trade agreements with Iron Country they would have shortage of kunais, shurikens and swords, so he answered to his student, "I want you to go, Orochimaru, learn which bloodline the kid possess and maybe his lineage too. Then you can see who would be the best teacher for this kid." Orochimaru understood Hiruzen and asked, "When do I leave?" "You cannot leave right now. We need you to win this war, and the road to Iron is way too dangerous to a shinobi alone, and if Hanzo catch that you are leaving without escort, he will hunt you himself." Orochimaru understood and nodded to his sensei. "So what do we say to Mifune?" Hiruzen replied, "I will send him a letter explaining the situation, and I will send you as quickly as we can without risking your life. I will tell you when to go. In the meantime everything will go as normal. You are dismissed." And with that Orochimaru gave him a nod and disappeared. Hiruzen quickly started to write a reply to Iron. Mifune Dono. I value our trade agreement as much as you do, so I'm going to send my apprentice to see this bloodline you write about, and he will see who will be the best to teach him. But in this times of war he cannot go to Iron because Aim and Kusa are way too close, so I'm willing to send him as early as possible that I can without risking my shinobi's life. I hope that you understand my reasoning. With my highest regards. Hiruzen Sarutobi, Hokage of Konoha. And with that he sent the reply to Mifune at Iron Country. Needless to say that Hiruzen, or Orochimaru, had any idea that Naruto will be one of the greatest shinobis ever to exist. Chapter 2. Training starts. Naruto was currently exhausted. He was currently 6 years old. For the past 2 years he trained as hard as a child could. That means that he most of everything was training in his chakra control, taijutsu and kenjutsu. After receiving the letter from the Hokage 2 years ago, Mifune decided that he was going to train Naruto as best as he could till the day that the Hokage can send a shinobi to train Naruto. For the past 2 years Naruto was training with Mifune, and something that Mifune and Naruto can be proud of is his chakra control. Naruto chakra control is the best control that Mifune could think of. During the first 6 months of training, Mifune had Naruto practice his chakra control at best of his abilities. Needless to say that the sheer resolve that Naruto put into training was beyond normal. The kid managed to perfect tree walking and water walking within the first week of training. At first Mifune was gaping like a fish, not believing the results, but after giving some thought he blames the strange white chakra of Naruto. That is something that not even today he could understand. Why is Naruto's chakra white? After learning the basics of chakra control, Mifune had Naruto practice the hardest chakra control he knew for samurai's, which consists in giving a sword a thin layer of chakra almost as thin as paper. This particular exercise was the hardest needed to be a samurai, and then again Naruto blew Mifune's mind, finishing the exercise in 2 weeks. The rest of the 5 months left of chakra control, Naruto managed to came up with his own exercises. One of the hardest that came up with was make chakra threads erupt from each finger and make little stones hover in midair just using chakra. This and all the exercises he did were made with two purposes. The first one was to increase his chakra reserves and control it. The remaining year and a half of training, Mifune trained Naruto at taijutsu and kenjutsu. At the beginning was pretty hard finding a taijutsu and a kenjutsu style because Naruto wasn't a normal person. He was fast for a kid his age, way too fast if you ask Mifune, and the other problem was that Naruto even without the Sharingan could predict and counter movements. By having these qualities on a kid, Mifune managed to find the styles that would fit Naruto the best. Mifune showed Naruto the best taijutsu style that he could. Its name was the wolf style. The wolf style consisted on quick but deadly strikes at killing zones. The point on this style is pain as it sounds is that you go in for the kill, strike as fast as you can, and as silently as you can. Naruto took this style as best as he could, and in Mifune words, he could kill anyone with it. The most important part of his training was kenjutsu. As expected from the land of samurais, the kenjutsu was the most important part. For the most part of a year he trained with a bokken wooden sword. Mifune, being the proud godfather that he was, he taught Naruto one of the most valued sword styles on all of the world. This style relies on speed and reflexes. In this style you use a katana, in which you use the katana to make quick strikes and evade all the opponent's strikes. Usually this style is almost impossible to learn, because you need to have almost inhuman reflexes, but with the help of the Sharingan Naruto pick it up pretty quickly. This sword style was at Iron Country from the beginning and is called the Black Fox. With his Sharingan, Naruto was simply a prodigy among prodigies. In his spars with Mifune he managed to unlock the second and third tomos. He was just a prodigy that even that he was a kid and barely beginning his life, he managed to give Mifune a challenge. Mifune had to stop holding back with Naruto if he had a chance of dying. Mifune never thought that Naruto would fight so viciously, but after what happened a year ago he could understand the kid. A year ago shinobis from AIM tried to take Iron Country, to make Konoha and Suna suffer from lack of weapons, but at invading the country they couldn't break the walls. The AIM shinobis were getting crazy for the lack of progress, so they decided to raid the nearby towns and houses. One of them was Naruto's house. Hearing the news of the raids, Mifune gathered a platoon of samurais and direct them to Naruto's house. When they arrived there, Mifune fell on his knees and started to cry. Everything was destroyed, the houses burned, the people murdered on the streets, heads rolling of the floor. Gathering all of his strength left, Mifune ran inside his friend's house and froze in place at what he saw. Naruto was in the middle of 15 AIM shinobis all dead on the floor, with bloodied cloths and standing still. You could even hear the kids breathing. Mifune, breaking out of his trance, walked to Naruto and spoke softly, "Naruto, are you okay?" Hearing a familiar voice, Naruto turned to Mifune, and what Mifune saw left him speechless. There it was Naruto, his eyes bleeding, and a weird shape in his eyes. The shape was a circle with 3 little circles spinning within a black one at the middle. Madara's original Mangekyo Sharingan. Getting Mifune out of his shock, Naruto speak, "Uncle, they are all dead. Tu-san, Ka-san, they are all dead." He said that without any emotion on his voice, almost as if he was a machine. Even the samurais that went with Mifune were scared with the tone of voice of Naruto. Mifune, quickly understanding the situation, went to Naruto and hugged him and said, "I know, Naruto, I know." Hearing this, Naruto fainted, and before he hit the ground, Mifune caught him and turned to his samurais and speak, "Search for any survivors and any prisoners. I will see you at the fortress." And with that words he left them and took Naruto to the fortress. After that incident, Naruto has never been the same. He got cold and uncaring, but with a man like Mifune as a parental figure was expected. After that he focused at training more than anything. He never stopped training until he passed out from exhaustion. Mifune never said anything from this odd behavior because he understood that at war one could not do anything other than accept the losses and avoid more losses. Now Naruto was 6 years old and he was ready to be a samurai in all the areas. He was a master of kenjutsu for his age. Recently Mifune received a letter from the Hokage, one that said that with the surrender of AIM he will send one of the recently named Sannin to Iron to finally honor the deal that they made 2 years ago. So Mifune was waiting the arrival of the Sannin. The letter arrived a week ago, so he was expectation the Sannin today, and like on clock his secretary told him that Konoha Shinobi was waiting for him at his office. Entering his office he saw one of the legendary Sannin waiting for him. There sitting on the couch was Orochimaru. Mifune quickly approached the Sannin and addressed him, "You must be Orochimaru. Here is an student. I must thank you for coming." Orochimaru gave a soft bow to Mifune and said, Mifune Dono, you are correct, and I'm here to honor the deal you had with Sensei, but there are new conditions that I'm sure Sensei informed you of. Mifune gave a nod understanding the new conditions and told him, let's not talk any further and let's go grab Naruto for the test I'm sure you want to give him. Orochimaru gave him a nod and followed Mifune to the training area where Naruto is most likely to be in. Naruto was practicing his katas when he saw Mifune walking with a pale-looking man. He paid them no mind and continued practicing his katas. Orochimaru, seeing a kid that could not be older than 7 practicing kenjutsu katas so flawlessly, was already interested, and seeing the quick and precise strikes with the bokken was already dying to see what kind of bloodline he would have. Needless to say that Orochimaru was already aware that this kid will go far. With the resolve he shows in his eyes and the effort he must have put on the art of kenjutsu, there was no doubt that this trip was not a waste of his time. Mifune approached Naruto and spoke, Naruto. This is Orochimaru, one shinobi of Konoha. He came here to see you. Naruto taking a look at the man and gave a bow and said, nice to meet you, my name is Naruto. Orochimaru was impressed with the respect showed from someone so young, but nonetheless reply, nice to meet you Naruto-kun, I see that you are already worn, mind a quick spar? Orochimaru asked with mischievous eyes. Naruto, seeing no problem in the request, gave a nod, and get into the beginning stance of his kenjutsu style. Mifune seeing this told Naruto, Naruto, do not hold back. He is a great shinobi, and he is here to test you. Begin at my call. Naruto understood and gave a nod, ready for anything. Orochimaru smiled at the predicament and pulled a kunai, seeing that Naruto was with a generic katana, expecting nonetheless from someone of Iron Country. Mifune backed away from the field and shout, Hajime. Naruto seeing Orochimaru waiting for him with a kunai speed of trying to strike him on the hearth, but seeing that Orochimaru saw the simple attack incoming, did a feint aiming for the neck. Orochimaru already knew the feint was coming but did not expect this kid to be so fast. If he say so himself, he must be in high chunin speeds to low jonin. With the unexpected speed he almost managed to cut the snake Sanin neck, but with impossible movements Orochimaru bent his neck and gave Naruto a hard kick at the side. But before the kick connect, Naruto lay low and the kick fly past his head. Orochimaru, impressed with the movement, tried to make him use all his kenjutsu skills, so he started swinging his kunai at great speed to see how Naruto would react. Naruto seeing this quickly started dodging all the strikes. Orochimaru was confused that he would not use his sword to parry the strikes, but quickly his doubts were answered by Naruto actions. Naruto was dodging all the strikes with ease and started to contra-attack with his own sword. Every time that Orochimaru swing with his kunai, Naruto would strike the small opening created by the swing of Orochimaru. Needless to say that Orochimaru was beyond impressed with the skill of the kid, so he started striking faster and faster, managing to reach mid-joinin speeds. Naruto quickly knew that he could not keep with that kind of speed, so he did the only thing he could do, and the Sharingan flared to life. Orochimaru almost got himself killed, at freezing at the shock of seeing a pair of 3 Tomo Sharingan, but quickly got himself together. Naruto took advantage of the shock of his opponent and infused chakra to his sword, and used chakra to speed himself up. He gave a strange strike to the kunai and the kunai was thrown away. With the boost of speed he leaped forward and cut the Sanin Ned with no remorse, and the body of the snake Sanin was replaced by a log. Orochimaru was surprised out of his mind. A 6-year-old boy without shinobi training almost killed him. If not for the shock of the Sharingan, he would not be prepared to replace himself with a log. Mifune seeing the escape the Sanin had to make started walking to the field and said, I guess you have seen enough, right Orochimaru? Orochimaru appeared from the forest with sweat running in his forehead and said, I believe you are correct. Good job Naruto-kun. Naruto seeing the Sanin appear from the forest was a little confused but nonetheless reply, hi, thanks for the spar, and he gave him a soft bow. Mifune seeing the end of the spar turned to Orochimaru and asked, so Orochimaru, what is your skill assessment of Naruto? Orochimaru was running the battle in his head to come up with a response. Finally gathering his thoughts he responded, first of all the Sharingan was unexpected. But nonetheless having a mature Sharingan at such early age is nothing short of astonishing. His speed without chakra enhancement is at least high chunin, to low jonin, which already is good enough to make chunin. The sheer skill in his kenjutsu is impressive, but I see that he has no real skills at shuriken and kunai. Seeing that he did not use any, considering everything, I think that we will need 4 years to fix the basics and teach him everything that he doesn't know as a shinobi, and I need to see something with his chakra. I don't know exactly what, but I felt that his chakra is different. Mifune understood everything that he said and gave him a soft nod. Then Orochimaru continued, Then again I guess that he has great chakra control if the trick with the sword was anything to go by. Naruto understood everything and kept quiet during the explanation. Then again Orochimaru continued, I'm going to stay here, I can let pass a potential like Naruto-kun pass by. Mifune understood Orochimaru's assessment of Naruto's skills and gave a nod, then by no means star right away, I will inform the Hokage of this development. Seeing that Mifune left the training ground, Orochimaru approached Naruto and gave him a piece of paper and said, that is a chakra paper, if you are going to be my student, you are not going to waste time. Naruto understood and asked, what this paper does? Orochimaru replied, this paper will show us what are your elemental affinities, now that we will know what are the best jutsus for you, you have to channel chakra to activate it, he tried explaining simple enough. Naruto understood what Orochimaru said, and he channeled chakra to the paper. The results were astonishing. First the paper split in hundreds of pieces, then each of the pieces started burning, but not normal red fire. This fire was white and they were so hot that the paper almost disappeared on the instant. Orochimaru saying the results was surprised, first that a kid that age had not one but two affinities and that each one of them were that strong. Not what almost make him faint was that the fire was not red like normal, it was white, and he knew that the brightest the fire the hottest it is, so practically the white flame is the strongest in existence besides Amaterasu. Breaking out of the trance, Orochimaru laughed and said, you are no ordinary kid. You have fire and wind as elemental affinities but not normal affinities. Naruto was puzzled by the comments, so he asked, what do you mean that they are not normal? Orochimaru understood the question and replied, your wind affinity is strong, usually the paper only splits in half not in hundreds. And your fire affinity may be the highest in history. Naruto was surprised but his wind affinity but his fire affinity being the highest in history was ridiculous, so he asked, what do you mean with the highest in history, what is so special about it? Orochimaru replied his question, fire is usually red, the brightest the fire the hotter it is. Your fire is white, the brightest it can be. Naruto was shocked knowing that he had such affinity, so being the smart kid that he was asked, how can I control it? Orochimaru was so put off by the question that almost faints, but gaining a face-splitting grin knowing that he got the big prize in student, he replied, I will teach you how to control it, your fire and wind affinities, so be patient, let's first work the basics. Orochimaru got in fighting position and told Naruto, I'm going to make you at least Jonin by the end of this 4 years, you better give it your all. Naruto gave him a nod and got in stance as well. The two watched each other and began their training. Mifune was back at his office and started writing a letter to the Hokage. Hokage Dono. I am here to inform you that your shinobi Orochimaru of the Sannin has decided to stay to teach personally Naruto. I am here to inform you that Orochimaru set an assessment of 4 years of training, then we will continue the deal as we promised and I will send Naruto to Konoha. Mifune, ruler of Iron. Land of Fire. Konoha. Hiruzen was currently speaking with Tsunade of the little Kushina. Suda said, she is much better now, I guess that having someone familiar is something good, Tsunade said after remembering how happy she was at learning that they were blood relatives. Hiruzen replied, that is much better. Kushina-chan starts the academy today, right? Kushina was much better the part of this 2 years, but she rarely got out of the Senju compound, that the reason that she relied too much on Tsunade, even calling her Ka-san. Chud replied, yes, she starts today, I hope she makes friends, she never leaves the compound. She is a happy kid, I know she will do great. In this past 2 years with Kushina, Tsunade knew that she was a great kid and very happy girl. Hiruzen was happy with everything right now, so he was about to reply to Tsunade, but there was a knocking on the door, so he let his secretary in. The secretary quickly apologized for the intrusion and gave a letter to the Hokage. Tsunade seeing the letter quickly asked, what's that about, sensei? Hiruzen notices the iron stamp on the envelope, so he opened and read its content. After finishing reading, he passed the letter to Tsunade and waited that she finish reading the letter. Needless to say that Tsunade was shocked of the news that Orochimaru would go out of his way to teach a kid, no matter who asked. Then she turned to Hiruzen and asked, who is this kid? Orochimaru would never go out of his way for anyone, especially for a kid in 4 years' absence. That kid must be impressive. Hiruzen gave a chuckle and turned to Tsunade and told her, we will have to wait 4 years to see for ourselves. Tsunade could only agree with his sensei and wait for the kid to come. Kushina Uzumaki was nervous. Today was her first day at the Shinobi Academy, her first day of the next 6 years to come. Kushina was 6 years old, she has red shoulder-length hair, round face and big bright purple eyes, and she was wearing a chain vest-like shirt, and a yellow dress with a green sash over her hip. Kushina Uzumaki was entering the first class of the day where all the students will present themselves and talk about their dreams and goals. Being a little nervous, she went and knocked on the door. Waiting a little bit, the instructor got out of the classroom and Kushina hurried and said, I, the Hokage ga, avenue me this paper to you. The instructor was smiling softly to the nervous kid and grabbed the paper and told her to follow him inside. Entering the classroom, all the eyes fall upon her. She was now beyond nervous at being on the spotlight. The Chunin instructor cleared his throat and speak to the class, shut up. Okay, now that you are quiet, today we will have a new student. Okay, tell your name, where you are from, and your dream. Kushina understood the Chunin and breath a couple times and speak, almost shouting for the nerves. My name is Kushina Uzumaki, I'm from Uzu, and my dream is to become Hokage. For a couple of seconds she thought she did okay until almost all of the boys of the room started laughing and you could hear, you are an outsider, you cannot be Hokage, a girl can't be Hokage, shut up outsider, and there were a lot of more shouts. Kushina, hearing all of this, quickly became angry and her face was getting red. Seeing this, the boys started bullying her even more. Look, she is getting angry, she looks just like a tomato, 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 and like that they starting bothering her until the Chunin spoke up. Shut up class and don't bother Kushina, now go take a sit. Needless to say that Kushina was beyond furious. First they make fun of her dream, then of her hair. She reached the top spot and sat fuming at everything. At the end of the classes, when the Chunin finally leave, all the boys gather around Kushina and started bullying her. Get out of here, outsider. Nobody wants you. Yay, get away, tomato. And the coarse words continue coming from the boys until Kushina snapped and jumped to the nearest boy and starting beating him up. The tomato went crazy. Run from the tomato, and there all the boys run. Kushina, seeing that the boys were running away, quickly got to the backyard of the academy, got to the tree and started crying. Nobody accepted her. They make fun of her and her hair. The crying continued for various minutes, until someone touched her shoulds. Feeling the contact, Kushina tensed and was ready to pounce on another stupid boy. Makoto Uchiha was a cute girl, black eyes, black hair and a slender figure. Today when Kushina introduced herself, they thought it was funny, so when she run away from the classroom she follow her. Seeing Kushina crying, she approached her, touched her shoulder and told her, I'm Makoto Uchiha, and I don't think your dream is stupid. She gave her a small smile. Kushina was impressed with this girl, because she knew that the Uchihas were not friendly. Tsunade taught her that. She quickly got out of her stupor and gave her a hopeful look and speak, you really think so? Makoto quickly nod and speak, I know that you are new here, so do you want to be my friend? Kushina was wearing a beautiful smile and almost shout, really? That would be great. Databane. Hearing the verbal tick, Makoto started laughing and Kushina quickly followed, but she was more happy because she have made her first friend. Kushina was back at the compound when Tsunade arrives. Quickly she went and asked how was her first day at the academy. Kushina told her about the boys and the bullying. Needless to say that Tsunade was beyond furious, until Kushina told her that she attacked the boys. Tsunade laughed for good 10 minutes, then Kushina told her about Makoto and how they went to the park right after the conversation. Tsunade was happy that she finally making a friend. After having dinner, Tsunade go up from the table and told Kushina, alright Kushina-chan, let's clean things up, then you will continue studying Fuinjutsu from grandmother notes. Kushina gave her a happy nod and went to clean the table. Kushina has been studying Fuinjutsu for the better part of the last 2 years. All started after Tsunade arrived, and they went together to Mito's old room and found a letter to Kushina. The letter said, Kushina-chan, I know that things will be difficult for you, and I hope that you will be strong enough for the challenges to come. I have a request for you. You are the princess of Uzu and as a proud Uzumaki you have to learn the art that we were famous for. That's the art of Fuinjutsu. I know that Tsunade will help you with it. She may not be good at Fuinjutsu, but she is a great woman and I taught her some things. Please make the Uzumaki and Uzu proud and become a master at the art. I will leave to you my notes and scrolls on Fuinjutsu. There you will find everything you need to become a level 10 master on the art. With love, Mito Uzumaki. After reading this letter, Kushina was tearing up a bit, and Tsunade had a smile on her face. From that day forward, Kushina gave her all to learn Fuinjutsu, just like Mito would want. So every day before and after dinner she would go study Fuinjutsu, and she is safe to say that she is at level 2 in learning Fuinjutsu. Fuinjutsu is one of the most complex shinobi arts. To be good at Fuinjutsu you need to have good chakra control, and the process of learning can be very taxing in theory. You need excellent handwriting and the basics of this art, the most time-consuming of all. Before beginning learning Fuinjutsu you need to learn the basics, then learn to write properly, learn to make your own ink, how to write in a paper and the correct kanjis for every one of them. Level 1 of Fuinjutsu. Beside the basics is simple recognition of seals and simple storage seals. The concept of a storage seal is so complex that it almost takes the whole chapter or level of Fuinjutsu. Level 2 of Fuinjutsu I almost as hard but know so much. In this level you get to the theory of explosive seals, paralysis seals, and chakra storage seals, being dangerous seals. You just learn the theory of this part. Usually one takes a lot of time to be able to learn even the 2 first levels of Fuinjutsu, but being an Uzumaki she had the Fuinjutsu embedded in her since she was born, so she took it as a fish on water. Besides learning seals, in her own time when Tsunade was not watching she would sneak to the training grounds and would learn from the scrolls of the Nadaime Hokage the art of Kenjutsu. She was not the most skilled of all, but she was a hard worker and never gave up. Tsunade on those years also helped her with taijutsu and chakra control, so she was good enough with taijutsu to beat every guy to the ground. Living with Tsunade made Kushina learn a lot of things and pick up on things of the Sannin. First, never talk of Dan or Nawaki. She lost both of them, and she was planning leaving the village but she couldn't leave Kushina by herself. Second, she hates perverts, absolutely despise perverts. She learned this when Tsunade's teammates came to the compound. They were Jiraiya the world-renowned pervert, and Orochimaru a creepy guys. Remembering Jiraiya she snicker a little for all the times she saw Tsunade beat him to the ground for pervert things. Remembering Orochimaru quickly became aware that she didn't see him for a couple of weeks, so she went to Tsunade and asked her, "Ka-san, why didn't Orochi came by this couple of weeks?" Tsunade hearing this and giving her a smile for the endearing name of Ka-san, responded to her, "Orochimaru will not be back for 4 years. Kushina was surprised at this information and quickly asked why. Tsunade answered, "He is going to teach a kid at Iron Country, by request of the ruler of Iron himself. The kid's name is Naruto. He is the same age as you." Kushina was surprised by this information but put it aside, since she never liked that much Orochimaru, so she replied, "Oh, okay, I'm going to the study, Ka-san." Tsunade hear this and reply, "Okay honey, I will tuck you in tonight." Kushina gave a quick, "Hi," and went to the study. Chapter 3. Results of Training. 10-year-old Naruto now stood at 5.0 feet, he was tall to a boy his age, and sun-kissed blonde hair, blue ocean eyes. Naruto is wearing a white shirt, a dark red jacket with black anbu pants, black fingerless gloves, black shinobi sandals, and a katana strap in his back. The katana has a black leather grip, with a black case. The blade of the katana is a clean metal color, and it has a carving running across the blade that it reads, Hai no Kishi, that means, Fire Knight. This blade was a present from Mifune. When Mifune heard that Naruto has a strong fire affinity, he went to retrieve one of the great swords of the Iron Country. The katana, Hai no Kishi, was made at the beginning of the Iron Country. It says that it was forged at the home of the lava monster, the Four Tails. It says that the Yonbi himself provided the lava for the forge, and from there it has passed from generation to generation. Mifune never wielded the blade himself because he has a water affinity, so the potential of the blade would be lost. Mifune thought that Naruto would be able to use its power to the full potential. The blade has a special power. It says it amplifies the control over fire of the wielder. Only a couple of grand samurais got to wield the sword, but no one managed to use it properly. Naruto's training was divided in 4. The first year of training Orochimaru taught all the theory of ninjutsu, genjutsu and shuriken jutsu, and he just practiced his skills in shuriken and kunai. During the whole year Orochimaru didn't let Naruto train at ninjutsu and genjutsu, because he wanted Naruto to master the basic shinobi skills first. Orochimaru first of all taught Naruto the 3 most basic jutsus, the academy jutsus, the hench transformation, bunshin, clone, kawarimi replacement, till mastering them, and doing them seal-less. During first year of training Naruto also kept training at his kenjutsu and taijutsu styles, and started a more demanding bodybuilding regimen. This regimen mostly focused at speed, because Orochimaru knew that Naruto could one day be the fastest shinobi alive, without chakra enhancement. During the second and third year of training, Naruto started the elemental manipulation training, while continuing to perfect his taijutsu and kenjutsu styles. During the 2-year period of elemental manipulation Orochimaru decided that Naruto should start with his fire manipulation, seeing that as his strongest element. The first step on fire manipulation was, burning a leaf from the center to the edges without burning the whole leaf. The problem with this training was that Naruto had such a strong affinity for fire that he just burned the whole leaf almost instantly. This step of the training took him almost a whole year. Orochimaru was not surprised that it took him so long. Orochimaru expected Naruto to finish this step of the manipulation within the beginning of the 3rd year of training, because even that he is a prodigy, Naruto was still a child. During the 3rd year of training, Naruto finished his first step of wind manipulation within the first 2 months. Much like the fire manipulation training, the first step of wind manipulation consisted on splitting a leaf with his chakra. The remaining 8 months of the 3rd year, Orochimaru decided that it was time to teach Naruto some fire and wind jutsus. The fire jutsus that Naruto learned were fire style, fireball jutsu, fire style, great dragon flame jutsu. Orochimaru also taught him some wind jutsus that were wind style, air bullet, wind style, great breakthrough. Orochimaru refused to teach him any other jutsu until he managed to master all the jutsus that he already knew. Naruto managed to master all the jutsu that Orochimaru taught him, at the point of making them perfect. His wind style, air bullet, and wind style, great breakthrough, were as strong as they could be, managing to use them with one hand sign, making the simple C-rank jutsus to B rank just by the sheer power of them. With his fire jutsus, fire style, fireball jutsu, fire style, great dragon flame jutsu, were mastered to the best point he could at the moment. He managed to master fire style, fireball jutsu to a point that the white flames were huge, in making this normal C-rank jutsu to B rank bordering A rank. Meanwhile, his fire style, great dragon flame jutsu was mastered to a point that the usually B rank jutsu was borderline S rank because of the speed and white flames. Also, during the 2nd and 3rd year of training, Naruto never stopped training his taijutsu, kenjutsu and shuriken jutsu. Finally, the last year of training was spent at the final stage of fire manipulation and his Sharingan genjutsu skills. The last step of fire manipulation was one of the hardest ever made, but by mastering the first stage, he managed to finish within the year. The final step of fire manipulation was the same as the first step, but this time instead of a normal leaf, it was a dried leaf. This small change was such a big deal that it cost him almost all the year. At the end of his elemental manipulation training with fire, Naruto realized that his fire jutsus improved a lot. First, his fire style, fireball jutsu stopped being B rank and became A rank because with more control, he needed less chakra to make the jutsu and he could make it bigger. The same happened with fire style, great dragon flame jutsu. It improved from being A rank jutsu to being a full blow S rank jutsu. Needless to say that Naruto was impressed with the result of his training. At the genjutsu area, Naruto managed to use his Sharingan to induce people in illusions just with seeing to his eyes, but he needed more training with his eyes to make the illusions that he makes better than a simple B rank genjutsu. The final strong point in Naruto's training was that he managed to learn how to infuse wind and fire chakra to his sword and kenjutsu style. When he channels his wind chakra through his blade, he makes it sharper. By channeling wind chakra through his blade, it gains a blue glow. When he channels his fire chakra through the blade, it makes it burn everything that it touches. By channeling fire chakra through his blade, it gains a white wavering that makes it seem as if the blade was of fire, which really is just trying to explain. Orochimaru is pleased with results of the training. Naruto by all means is a Jonin level shinobi. Now he just needs experience, because against a seasoned Jonin, he would need to use his Sharingan to have a chance of winning. Right now Orochimaru and Naruto are at the doors of the fortress, ready to leave the Iron Country to Konoha. 4 years ago, when Orochimaru arrived at Iron and started training Naruto, Mifune made a deal with the Hokage. The deal entails that at the end of the training Naruto would go to live as a shinobi of Konoha. Mifune saw no problem with this deal because Naruto has no family left at Iron Country. The closest thing as a family he has is Mifune himself, and knowing that the whole Uchiha clan is at Konoha, he knew that Naruto will be better there. The day that Mifune told Naruto that he will leave to be a Konoha shinobi was the same day that Mifune saw the moment to explain about his family and heritage. Needless to say that Naruto was speechless at the moment. First of all, he will be leaving Iron, he will be leaving his uncle, and will be going to an unknown village to be a shinobi there. Naruto was about to shout Mifune that he didn't wanted to leave him. Mifune, seeing that the only way that Naruto would be willing to leave him, he would have to explain his heritage to Naruto. So there Mifune started explaining about Naruto's grandmother. Takumi's mom, and her relationship with Madara Uchiha. He explained Madara's life, his fight with Hashirama, and the death of Madara, how the legends say that he controlled the Kyuubi with his Mangekyou Sharingan. Naruto was shocked with the story that Mifune told him, and was impressed with the strength of his grandfather. To control the Kyuubi, the greatest of the tailed beasts, was nothing short of amazing, but what shocked him the most was the letter that his father left him before he died. Mifune had this letter from the day that Naruto was born. Takumi knew that if something happened to him and his wife, the only one that they could trust Naruto with was Mifune, his godfather. In the letter was a message of Takumi that confirmed everything that Mifune told him, and explained the darkest secrets of the Uchiha, the secret behind the Mangekyou Sharingan, the one that his mother told him, on her deathbed. Naruto was shocked that his grandfather had to replace his eyes to the ones of his brother Izuna. It took a moment to finally understand everything that Mifune told him, and everything that was on the letter. After making peace with his lineage, Naruto decided to finish reading the letter. At the end of the letter was a store seal. Naruto quickly opened and saw a wooden box. The wooden box was small, but it had the Uchiha fan on the top of it. Naruto tried to open it, but he failed. Then he read that at the bottom of the box was written, "Only Miko's blood is the key." Naruto was puzzled at first by the strange message but understood that must be Madara that made the box. Naruto quickly figured that only his grandmother Miko and her blood relatives could open the box, so without wasting any moment he bit his finger and sprayed his blood in the lock of the wooden box. What happened next was that Naruto heard the click of the box, and a little hesitant opened the box. Within the box there was an opened letter and a scroll. Reaching for the letter. "Dear Miko. You were one of the few things that happened to me since the day of Izuna's death. I know that we may not see ever again, so I want to give you one of my most prized possession, my eyes. In the scroll there are my original eyes, the ones before I replace them with Izuna's. I want to keep them safe. No one can ever put a hand on them. My eyes contain secrets of the clan that must not be known by anyone outside of the clan. I want that the day that you finally pass to the afterlife, I want you to be buried with the box, escape the land of fire and never return. If I survive I will find you, if not I hope you live a great life. Madara Uchiha." Naruto was watching the scroll in the box, and trying to figure everything out. First, Madara Uchiha was his grandfather. Second, his grandmother Miko knew that maybe his son or grandson would need Madara Mangekyou at some point in his life, so he left it to Takumi. Third, his father Takumi knew that Naruto would need some that Madara eyes, if the stories of Miko were anything to go by. After that day Naruto trained even harder to honor the legacy of his grandmother and father, that even that it was uncertain they knew that he would need the eyes of Madara, so from that day forward he would be Naruto Uchiha in honor of the man that his grandmother loved, his own grandfather Madara Uchiha. So here they are, the day where Naruto starts his journey to Konoha. With the end of the war 4 years ago, Naruto finally gets to fulfill his destiny and start a new journey to Konoha. "Let's get going, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru said to Naruto at the door of the fortress, where they were saying goodbye to Mifune. "Hi sensei," Naruto said before turning to Mifune and giving him a hug of goodbye. Mifune hugged back and said, "Naruto, never forget your way. And never forget the code of a samurai." Naruto heard Mifune and reply, "Never uncle, protect the weak, destroy the evil and live honorably, I will never forget it old man." Mifune gave him a soft smile. "Then go my boy, and don't forget to pay a visit to this old man from time to time," and with that Naruto and Orochimaru start their travel to Konoha. Land of Fire, Konoha. Kushina Uzumaki is a 10-year-old girl with long red hair, big beautiful purple eyes, and she stood at 4.5 feet, just like a normal 10-year-old girl. She is wearing a short yellow dress with a black sash at her hip, black socks that go up to her mid-thigh. History picture. During the last 4 years at the academy she trained a lot on her own and with the help of Tsunade of the Sannin. In her Fuinjutsu skills she managed to reach level 4, something extraordinary considering the complexity of the art. In her other shinobi skills, she managed to be quite good at taijutsu, and kenjutsu, being one of the things that she practiced the most. Her taijutsu style was taught to her by Tsunade. Needless to say that she was one force to be reckoned with, and with her kenjutsu she was pretty good considering that no one was teaching her. After the first year after entering the academy, Tsunade started teaching her chakra control. Needless to say that being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi was a pain in the ass for Kushina, and her chakra control was horrendous. Tsunade, seeing this, started early her training in chakra control, and also they worked together in her taijutsu, taking advantage of the Senju library to search for the Uzumaki fighting style. This taijutsu style was focused on strong hits and flow movements. The style was called whirlpool style. Kushina knew that Suede couldn't help her with her kenjutsu because Tsunade was not a kenjutsu user, and Orochimaru being the only one of the 3 Sannin that knows kenjutsu, she had to learn it by herself. Even without a proper teacher, she was quite good at kenjutsu, probably mid-genin at the art. Tsunade also teach her the chakra paper, and they tested Kushina's affinities. Tsunade was surprised that Kushina actually has not only one affinity but 2, water and earth. Kushina's water affinity was not normal, actually it was pretty high, and Tsunade told her that with proper training she could be as good as the Nadaime Hokage. Kushina was static hearing this from Tsunade that she begged her to teach her how to control it. Tsunade actually agreed with Kushina and they started training in her taijutsu, chakra control and water manipulation. So during the last 4 years they trained together. First they trained her chakra control. This training was one of the hardest ones for Kushina but the most rewarding one. It took her almost a year finishing tree walking and water walking, because with her high and dense Uzumaki chakra and being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, her reserves for a little girl were ridiculous. Kushina's chakra reserves at the age of 7 were almost as high as a Jonin. Tsunade was happily surprised. Having that much chakra and being able to control it was nothing short of amazing, but besides having good chakra control, she couldn't make a simple clone. Kushina mastered the Kawarimi replacement and the hench transformation. Tsunade told her that when she is old enough she will teach her a variation of the clone technique. Kushina understood and did not question Tsunade's judgment. Tsunade, seeing that Kushina was training in kenjutsu, told her that if she ever managed to be Jonin level at kenjutsu, she would inherited Tobarama's sword, the sword of the Thunder God. Hearing this, Kushina was beyond static hearing that she has the chance of earning such a famous sword. Beyond training, Kushina had a great relationship with Makoto Uchiha, her best friend. From the day that they met, they were inseparable. Kushina managed to make more friends than just Makoto. One of them was Sume Inuzuka, the heir of the Inuzuka clan, and she was harsh and rude but a great friend. The 3 little girls managed to be together as if they were glued to each other. But even with more friends, most of the classroom made fun of her and kept bullying her to this day. Needless to say that the fowls that tried something with her, seeing that she was one of the prettiest girls at the academy, those fowls that after bullying her, tried to move on her, were utterly destroyed by the fury of the Red Hot Habanero. The Red Hot Habanero was a nickname that the boys of the class put on Kushina after receiving the fury of the red-headed girl. Kushina was happy with a part of her life, but she still is trying to be completely accepted by his peers. She wants someone that believes in her and her dreams. She knows that Makoto and Sume are her friends, but she knows that even they don't believe on her dream of becoming the Hokage. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage of Konoha, was waiting patiently for Orochimaru and Naruto to arrive at Konoha. They are expected today to arrive. The reason for waiting for them was that even if Orochimaru trained Naruto, Naruto still needs to be at least 1 year at the academy. The reason for this is that the council don't trust Naruto, being that they know nothing of the kid, and Orochimaru decided that he would keep his bloodline a secret. Ending his train of thoughts, he heard a knock on the door. Gathering himself, he muttered a quick, "Come in," and his secretary told him that Orochimaru was waiting with a kid and they are asking to come in. Hiruzen gave her a nod and said, "Let them in." Orochimaru entered the office first, followed by a blonde kid. Hiruzen, understanding that this must be Naruto, "Speak up." "So Orochimaru, you finally returned. This must be Naruto-kun." Orochimaru addressed him first. "Yes, sensei, and yes, this is Naruto-kun. He is quite the prodigy." Naruto addressed the Hokage and gave him a bow. As Orochimaru sensei said, "I'm Naruto, is a pleasure to meet you, Lord Hokage." Hiruzen was surprised by the manners presented by this youngster. "Nice to finally meet you, Naruto-kun. So Orochimaru, before the council meeting, mind telling me Naruto-kun bloodline?" Orochimaru frowned at hearing that the council was already waiting, gave a sigh and reply, "So the council is already bothering with my student." Hiruzen also sighed and said, "Is as expected, that you nonetheless accepted a student and one with a bloodline." Orochimaru understood his sensei point, so he turned to Naruto and told him, "Naruto-kun, show him." Naruto gave his sensei a nod and turned to face the Hokage, and the Sharingan flared to life. Hiruzen Sarutobi is a man hard to impress, but at seeing a full-grown Sharingan in the eyes of a foreign youngest, was honestly shocked. so he gathered himself before turning to Orochimaru and asked, "So, the Sharingan in a mature one, I honestly didn't expect that." So he turned to Naruto and with a voice that speak volumes of power asked Naruto, "So, Naruto, how do you have the Sharingan?" Naruto was a little afraid by the tone of voice the Sandaime used, but he man up and reply, "Sandaime-sama, could we please have this conversation on private? Not even Orochimaru's sensei knows this information." Sarutobi was puzzled by this request, and by seeing that Naruto managed to sense the Anbu at the office, so he spared a look to Orochimaru, and seeing him nod, he spoke up, "Anbu, give us a moment," and with that order the Anbu left the room and Sarutobi flared the silencing seals on. Sarutobi said, "Now that we are alone, would you tell us, how can you have the Sharingan?" Naruto understood that it was not a question, it was an order, so he took a quick breath and started speaking. "Sandaime-sama, Orochimaru-sensei, I'm the grandson of Madara Uchiha." Needless to say that Orochimaru and Sarutobi were left speechless by this information. Seeing the confusion in the elder faces, Naruto started to explain, all that was on the letter that his father left for him. How Madara had a lover in the name of Miko, how he left her before the fight with Hashirama, how Miko escaped Fire Country and went to Iron, how Miko gave birth to his father Takumi, how Takumi met his mother Henna, and how they had a child, and how his parents died a couple of years ago. Orochimaru and the Sandaime were left speechless for a couple of minutes till the Sandaime cleared his throat and said, "That is quite a story, young man. Do you have any proof of this?" Naruto understood that they didn't believe him yet, so he told them, "You can run a DNA test any time you want, Sandaime-sama. I'm completely sure of this information for reasons that I cannot tell you." Hiruzen understood that the young man may have secrets, so he did not pry any more in the subject. Hiruzen quickly deactivated the silencing seals and called for an Anbu. "Yes, Sandaime-sama," replied the Anbu. Hiruzen said, "Anbu, I want you to bring Tsunade in this moment. Tell her that as an emergency." The Anbu, understanding the request, disappear in a swirl of leaves. "Let's wait till Tsunade arrives, see if what you say is true." And with that everyone waited for a couple of minutes until there was a swirl of leaves and there appears Tsunade Senju, the granddaughter of Hashirama Senju. Seeing that Tsunade arrived, Hiruzen reactivated the silencing seals and turned to Tsunade, and before that Tsunade could say anything he said, "Tsunade, test Naruto's blood, with this blood example," and with that information Hiruzen walked to Hashirama's portrait, opened and retrieved a blood vial with an Uchiha fan on the glass. Tsunade, surprised with the sudden request, grabbed the blood vial from his sensei and turned around to see a kid, no older than 10 to 11, and without wasting time pull a scroll, unsealed a vial and a needle and pull blood from the kid. After pulling the blood from Naruto, Tsunade put both vials on the table and her hands started to glow green. She put her hands on top of the vials, and watched them change colors a moment and said to Hiruzen, "They have the same DNA, they are blood relatives, so sensei, could you please tell me what's up?" Hiruzen sighed and turned to Tsunade. "This is Naruto, he is the kid that Orochimaru went to teach during the past 4 years." Naruto, being named, turned to Tsunade and gave her a nod and said, "Nice to meet one of my sensei's teammates, I'm Naruto, pleased to meet you." Tsunade, finally noticing that Orochimaru was at the room, saw him nod and turned to Naruto, and gave him a nod of acknowledgement. Finally she turned to Hiruzen and asked, "So sensei, what is up with this test and who is that blood that you pulled out from the vault?" Hiruzen gave a long and tired sigh and said, "That blood was from Madara Uchiha." Hearing this, Tsunade froze and turned to Naruto. While still watching Naruto, she said, "Explain, now," and with those simple words Hiruzen explained everything that Naruto told them earlier to Tsunade and made Naruto flare his Sharingan to prove his point. After explaining to Tsunade, Hiruzen turned to the other 3 occupants of the room and speak, "None of this information will go out of this room. If the council hears a sniff of this they will go crazy." Tsunade, Orochimaru and Naruto gave him a nod. Seeing that everyone understood, Hiruzen said, "Now Orochimaru, Tsunade and Naruto, follow me to the council chambers." Following orders, everyone left the room. After the council meeting, Orochimaru was pissed. They are making his student go to the academy, like any other kid, saying that he was way too valuable to waste his time on a kid. If Hiruzen wasn't there he would have killed all of those arrogant civilians that were shouting that an outsider could not become a Konoha shinobi. Hiruzen quickly shut them by showing Naruto's bloodline. If Naruto didn't had a bloodline, the council would never accept an outsider, even if this is a student of a Sannin become a shinobi, but there was a drawback with accepting Naruto. he has to pass the academy like a regular kid, and he cannot skip years because he has to prove his loyalty to the village. Seeing that the council made some good points, he could do nothing but agree with them. After the council meeting, Hiruzen, Tsunade, Orochimaru and Naruto were back at the office, and Orochimaru quickly made his rage notice. This is bullshit, how could they think of doubting my student? Hiruzen sighed and said, you have to understand them, no one knows Naruto besides you, and I think that maybe he will benefit of interacting with people his age. Tsunade, understanding his sensei, spoke up, Sensei is right, the kid needs more than being a killing machine, he needs friends at the village. Orochimaru gave a sign and said, it has to be done, I still believe that he will be wasting his time at the academy. Naruto, not liking being left out, said, it's okay sensei, it's not like I will stop training, I will catch up after the 2 years. Orochimaru understood and gave him a nod. Hiruzen, hearing this, said, so it's settled, Naruto will be starting the academy the next week, have the keys to your apartment, one of my anbus will take you there, and you will be receiving an allowance till you make genin. Naruto gave him a nod and quickly disappear with the anbu. Seeing that Naruto left, Tsunade started speaking, I'm still impressed that the kid didn't want to go live at the Uchiha compound, even after Kagami offered him a place there. Orochimaru, hearing this, said, Naruto-kun was always an independent kid, I was expecting something like that, and he will be fine. Sarutobi smiled softly at his students and said, now that this matter is solved, let's continue with work. Naruto arrived at his new apartment with the anbu. The anbu gave him the basic instructions, like where is the laundry, etc. Entering his new apartment, Naruto started to look around over the apartment, and saw that it was a small apartment with 1 bedroom, a living room, kitchen and a bathroom. Naruto was happy even if the apartment was small and simple. The apartment was already with furniture, so he only needed to buy food. Putting that aside for tomorrow, he went to take a bath and reflect on everything that happened the last years. He unlocked his Sharingan, he started training, his parents died, Orochimaru arrived, a new training began, his father letter, Mifune gave him his sword, leaving Mifune, arriving at Konoha and going to his apartment. He gave a long tired sign, and started thinking what will his future have ready for him. Finally getting out of the bath, unsealed his cloths from a scroll, changed to sleeping cloths, that were a shirt and some shorts, and finally getting to bed to get some well-deserved rest. The week before the start of the academy, all Naruto could do was meeting with Orochimaru for training. Seeing that he had no friends his age, he had nothing better to do than training. He really didn't mind, he liked training. Finally the first day of academy arrived. Naruto was a little nervous, he never was a people person, and he never had friends his age, and all he did was training. Needless to say that he didn't know how to behave with other kids his age. After going to the principal's office and presenting the letter from the Hokage that said that he was a special case so he can start classes even if he wasn't the first 4 years of the academy. The principal, seeing the Hokage stamp, did not question the kid and gave him a paper to present to the instructor. So Naruto started to search for the classroom, and after finding it, he knocked and heard all the noise that was inside of the classroom despaired. He gulped and waited for the instructor. After seeing a tall kid, the instructor was puzzled, but, quickly putting it aside, he reached for the paper Naruto was giving him, and after reading it, he gave Naruto a nod and told him to follow into the classroom, so Naruto gave a sign to calm himself and follow after the Chunin. Chapter 4, Meeting Her. Kushina was having a normal day. Today she started her second to last year at the academy. Everything went as normal as possible. She arrived at the classroom, met Makoto and Sum, and they went to sit together at the back row of the classroom. Everything was normal until someone knocked the classroom door and the instructor checked who it was. Seeing that the Chunin instructor told him to follow, Naruto followed behind and entered the classroom. Upon entering the classroom, all the eyes fall upon him. Seeing the curious gaze of the classroom, the Chunin speak up, "Alright class, today we will have a new classmate by orders of the Hokage. Please introduce yourself, and tell us where you are from and your dream for the future." Understanding the instructor, Naruto begins speaking, "My name is Naruto Uchiha, I'm from Iron Country, and I don't have a dream for the future. I just don't want to lose anyone close to me again." The end of the speech was said with a somber tone of voice and a downcast gaze. Needless to say that all the girls, at seeing one of the most handsome boy they have ever seen, started mutter how look he was and how handsome he was. Most of the girls were also fawning at the looks of Naruto, and his style of clothing that consisted on a red jacket with a white shirt, black anbu pants, fingerless gloves and shinobi sandals. with his katana strapped at his back. Even the boys of the classroom were impressed with his looks and accepted that he looked badass. Kushina, seeing this new boy named Naruto, was also quite impressed by his looks, but being the proud kunoichi that she was, said nothing. Instead she turned to Makoto and asked, "Do you know who is he? He is from your clan after all." Makoto knew that there was a new Uchiha at the village and knew that he would be starting the academy today with her, but she was as impressed with the looks of Naruto, first of all because he was an Uchiha but he doesn't have the regular black hair and black eyes. Her father Kagami Uchiha, head of the Uchiha clan, told her of the new irregular boy, so she wasn't as impressed at the other girl's behavior. Finally turning to Kushina she said, "My father told me that he arrived, but said that he refused to live at the compound, so I know as much as you do, but he told me that he was the student of Orochimaru of the Sannin and recently arrived at the village." Kushina, understanding that this boy must be the one that her mother Tsunade was speaking about, that was the student of Orochimaru, so finally gazing to Naruto again she started listening to his sensei. The Chunin gave Naruto a nod and speak to the class, "I know that this is irregular but Naruto recently arrived at the village, I hope that you can welcome him, and show him around after the classes are over. Naruto, please go take a sit with Shibi. Shibi, please raise your hand." Naruto gave him a nod and started walking to the lonely kid at the top left row of the classroom. Arriving at the row he took a seat next to Shibi and said, "Nice to meet you, my name is Naruto Uchiha, may I have yours?" Shibi, seeing the respect in Naruto's words, reply, "I'm Shibi Aburame, nice to meet you to Naruto-san." Naruto hearing this said, "Nice to meet you to Shibi-san, so you are from the Aburame clan, you must have quite a hive within you." Shibi, seeing that Naruto knew of the hive and wasn't disgusted, speak, "You know of the Aburame hive and you are not disgusted, that is quite interesting Naruto-san, thanks for not judging." Naruto gave him a nod of understanding and reply, "My sensei taught me all about the clans of Konoha, and yours was one of the more interesting ones, and it's unreasonable to be disgusted with you clan's hives, after all it's just any other bloodline." Shibi heard Naruto and was surprised and said, "You are quite the interesting one Naruto-san, I hope that we can work together on the future." Giving Shibi a small smile, Naruto turned to pay attention to the Chunin instructor and the class started. After the class was over, and lunchtime arrived, Naruto was about to leave the classroom to have lunch with Shibi at the backyard, but quickly was surrounded by a group of girls. Seeing that his classmates may have some questions, he spoke to Shibi before turning to the girls and said, "Go ahead, I will catch you in a minute." Shibi understood and kept walking. Turning to the girls, he was overwhelmed with all the questions that they were asking him. "How is Iron Country? Why you don't look like any other Uchiha? Why do you have a katana in your back? Do you have a girlfriend?" Those and a lot of other questions were fired at him. Makoto Uchiha also wanted to speak with Naruto, turned to Kushina and Henna and said, "You go ahead, I want to speak with Naruto about some things." And seeing Naruto getting barreled with all those questions, decided to do somethings, so she started walking to Naruto and grabbed his shoulder and said to him, "Naruto, may we speak? My father told me about you." Naruto, seeing that she was trying to save him from all the girls, gave her a nod. All the girls were frowning to Makoto, believing that she wanted to get ahead of the new handsome student. Naruto, seeing the frowns, gave them a soft smile and told them, "Maybe other time, I got matters to attend." Naruto didn't realize, but at the moment he gave them that smile, he sealed his destiny and the new Naruto Uchiha fan club started. Naruto followed Makoto to the backyard and said, "Thanks for saving me from those girls, I didn't catch your name." Makoto gave him a small smile and reply, "You are welcome, I'm Makoto Uchiha, Kagami is my father, you met him at the council meeting." Naruto gave her a nod of understanding and said, "Well, thank you Makoto-san, I better not take any more of your time, it seems that your friends are waiting for you." Makoto gave Naruto a questioning look, but after seeing him look behind her and see Kushina and Henna looking at them, she understood and replied, "You are welcome, I better get going, if you need anything don't hesitate to ask me, after all we are family." And with that Makoto went to Kushina and Henna. When Makoto arrived to Kushina and Sum, they quickly started asking, "So what were you doing with Naruto?" Sum was the one that asked the question, and Kushina was also listening because she was curious of Naruto, but most of all was curious about Naruto's katana. Seeing that no one beside her in the class practiced kenjutsu, she wanted to go and ask him for a spar, but being the insecure girl she was, she would never dare to go speak with someone alone in fear of that someone new making fun of her. Makoto gave a soft giggle seeing the eager faces of her friends in reply. Wouldn't you want know? Sume gave her a growl of annoyance and Kushina a pout. Seeing their faces, Makoto started laughing in reply. Haha, okay, I just was saving him from them, and with that she pointed a group of girls that were whispering and giggling. Kushina, seeing the group of fangirls, gave an annoyed sign and said, poor Naruto, he will have to deal with them the next 2 years. Sume and Makoto agreed and started eating. Naruto, finally relaxing, saw Shibi under a tree and went to him. After sitting in front of him, he pulled his own lunch and they continued eating in silence. After some time, Shibi speak up to Naruto, it seems that you already are quite popular with the girls. Seeing the questioning look in Naruto's face, Shibi pointed behind Naruto and there stood 10 girls whispering to each others and giggling when he looked at them. Turning around, he dropped his head in exhaustion and said, I can't even have one quiet day. The answer and the way Naruto said it made Shibi gave a small laugh and said, you really are an interesting one, Naruto-san. Naruto gave him a laugh and continued eating. When they all returned to the classroom, the instructor said, okay class, let's go to the training ground. We will have a taijutsu practice this afternoon, and with that they all went outside, with Naruto being followed by his new fan club. Arriving at the training ground, the Chunin quickly addressed Naruto as said, as you are new Naruto, I want you to have a spare against me, to see what level you are on. Naruto gave him a nod and entered the circle ring and assumed his taijutsu stance. Seeing Naruto ready, the Chunin assumed the academy stance and said, okay, the time is set to 3 minutes, try your best Naruto. Naruto gave him a nod, and Naruto's eyes became devoid of emotion as if he was seeing a bug ready to be stomped. The Chunin was a little nervous with the gaze of Naruto, but he thought that was overconfidence and put it aside. With one final gaze to Naruto, the Chunin said, Hajime, and Naruto disappeared from the spot and appeared behind the Chunin. Everyone was stunned with sheer speed of Naruto, but when the instructor fell to the ground unconscious, they were about to faint. Kushina, as the other classmates of Naruto, was beyond shocked. A boy her age utterly destroyed a Chunin. Now Kushina was more than safe that she wanted to train with Naruto. If he has that kind of speed, just how good he must be with his sword. Naruto started walking out of the ring and losing all the concentration of the fight approached Shibi and said in a tired voice, I was expecting more of a Chunin. Shibi hearing this didn't say anything and he and Naruto started waiting for the Chunin to stand up again. After 10 minutes the Chunin started to regain his consciences and recall the events before he was knocked out. He was seeing Naruto in front of him, he said start, and in the next moment he doesn't remember anything. Seeing that he was waking up, Naruto started walking to his sensei and told him in soft and kind voice, Sensei, did I pass you test? The Chunin was shocked and said in a soft voice, yes Naruto, you passed. And with that Naruto started walking back to Shibi. After everyone finished understanding the events that happened, all the spares begin. On the girls' side of the spars, Kushina, Makoto and Sume were the best of them all and destroyed all the civilian girls. Kushina managed to beat Sume in a great match. Then Kushina had to fight Makoto in the final. Kushina had the upper hand while the moment Makoto activate her Sharingan did only have one Tomio in one eye and two in the other, but it was enough to win. In the boys' side of the spares, all the boys that faced Naruto either surrendered before the fight started or they got beat in an instant, much like the Chunin. There were some stand-up fighters. One of them was a silver blonde-haired kid that his name was Inoichi, the other one was Shibi. Even if his clan are not taijutsu fighters, he managed to make a good show. The last one that stood up the most was Naruto's opponent for the final. Naruto's opponent for the final was a big kid with orange-reddish hair, with 2 lines in each cheek. His name was Choza, and by his body traits he must be from the Akamichi clan. Naruto was already ready to fight, but Choza said something first. I am sorry Naruto-san, but Shikaku said that I shouldn't fight you if I don't wanted to be hurt. Naruto gave a look to the kid named Shikaku and recognized that he was the one that forfeited before. Shikaku was a thin kid with pineapple black hair. Understanding Choza, Naruto gave him a nod and said, it seems that your friend is rather smart. I guess by his look that he is from the Nara clan, and you are from the Akamichi clan, am I correct? Choza gave him a nod and said, yes we are, and thanks for understanding Naruto-san. Seeing that Choza forfeit, the Chunin instructor said, now Makoto and Naruto are the winners of the matches, now you can all go home, the class is over. Hearing the news, the new Naruto fan club started to cheer for Naruto. Naruto was embarrassed with his name being shouted, so he let it go and started leaving the academy to train with Orochimaru. not before bidding goodbye to Shibi and Makoto. Arriving at the Senju compound, Kushina started looking for Tsunade to speak her about her new classmate Naruto. After finally finding her at the living room, Kushina ran towards Tsunade and a bit too loud started to talk. Ka-san, Ka-san, today at the academy there was a new boy, his name was Naruto, is he the one that Orochi went to teach at Iron? Tsunade, amused by Kushina's behavior, replied, yes Kushina-chan, they arrived last week, it seemed he made quite an impression, mind telling me what happened today at the academy? Kushina excitedly started to explain, he looks so cool, with his katana in his back, I bet he is great at kenjutsu. And he is an Uchiha that it's not an asshole, he was kind, and he was super strong, he beat the instructor in 1 second. Tsunade, laughing at Kushina's behavior, said, so it seems that you have a little crush on him, was he so amazing to impress the red-hot habanero? Tsunade teased Kushina. Kushina, hearing this, got red as a tomato and shouted, Ka-san. I don't have a crush, stop teasing me. Tsunade laughed hard at Kushina's face. After calming herself, Tsunade replied, sorry Kushina-chan, it's just that you never talk about boys. Kushina pout and mutter, the other boys are dumb and weak. Tsunade gave a sign and said, yes, he is Orochimaru's student. Orochimaru told me that he is quite good at kenjutsu, and that he is a prodigy among prodigies. Kushina was surprised by this information but nonetheless said, so? You think that he would practice with me, if I ask? Tsunade gave a small smile and said, I'm sure he will, he just arrived at the village, I'm sure that you two can become friends. Kushina was happy with the answer, so they started getting ready for dinner and waiting to academy tomorrow to ask Naruto for training. The second day of the academy begun. Naruto was sitting beside Shibi, waiting for the Chunin instructor to arrive. Kushina was sitting beside Makoto and Tsume, trying to think how to speak with Naruto. Makoto, seeing the troubled face of Kushina, asked, what got you thinking so hard, everything okay? Kushina sheepishly scratched the back of her head and said, it's nothing, don't worry. Tsume, hearing the conversation and seeing that Kushina was stealing glances to the new student, said, it seems that you want to talk to Naruto, does the red-hot habanero have a crush on Naruto? Teased Tsume. Hearing this, Kushina got red as a tomato and started muttering. Makoto and Tsume laughed hard seeing Kushina flustered. Kushina quickly pouted and said, it's not like that, it's just that no one our age know kenjutsu and it's hard to learn by myself. I just wanted to ask him for a spar. Makoto heard this and understood, so she asked Kushina, do you want me to invite him to lunch with us? There, you can ask him. Kushina snapped his neck to Makoto and said, thank you. Thank you. That would be perfect. Finally the Chunin arrived and the class started. At the end of the class, Makoto stood up and walked to Naruto and Shibi. Naruto-san, Shibi-san, would you two like to have lunch with us? Naruto spared a glance to Shibi and seeing him nod, he replied, sure, why not Makoto-san, we'll follow behind. Makoto turned around and gave Tsume and Kushina a thumbs up, and all 5 of them went to the backyard at the academy. Arriving at the backyard, Makoto quickly turned to Kushina and Tsume and said, Kushina-chan, Tsume-chan, this is Naruto-san. Seeing that they already knew Shibi, she didn't introduce him. Naruto turned to the Inuzuka and shook her hand and said, pleased to meet you, Tsume-san. Tsume shook back his hand and said, nice to meet you too, Naruto. Turning to Kushina, Naruto froze at seeing her. She was the most beautiful girl she has ever seen. Yesterday he paid no mind to Makoto's friends, but, finally given her a good look, he was stunned. Her flowing red hair, her big purple eyes, her round and face with puffy cheeks, she was the prettiest girl he has ever seen in his life. So he did the only thing that he could, he stared at her eyes, lost in thoughts. Kushina was in the same boat, finally giving him a closer look, her cheeks were getting redder each second. His beautiful golden hair, big blue ocean dead eyes, so she to stare at his eyes, and to Kushina and Naruto it seemed like the time stopped, they were the only ones in the world. The moment was awkward to the others, seeing the two frozen at the place, Makoto clear her throat, and that brought them to the reality. Kushina quickly became red as a tomato realizing what was happening and shouted, nice to meet you, Naruto-san. Naruto, waking up from the embracing moment, replied with a pink color in his cheeks, pleased to meet you, Kushina-san, forgive me for staring, it's just I never saw a girl as beautiful as you are. Naruto, never being the best in human interaction, didn't realize that what he said was the breaking point for Kushina. Hearing the compliment from Naruto, Makoto and Sume started to giggle, but Kushina was so red by the compliment that was about to faint. Not knowing how to respond, Kushina said the only thing that came to her mind, thank you Naruto-san, yo you are very handsome as well. Hearing what just came of her mouth, Kushina covered her mouth with her hands and somehow got redder. Makoto, seeing that her friend could not resist any longer, spoke up, so let's better start eating. Everyone agreed with Makoto and started eating. While everyone was eating, Kushina was sparing glances to Naruto. Makoto, tired of this odd behavior from Kushina, whispered, Kushina, weren't you going to ask him to spar with you? Kushina responded, I was going to, but with what he said, how do you expect me to start a conversation? Makoto gave a tired sign and decided to take matters at her own hands. So she speak up, Naruto, I see that you always carry your sword, you know that Kushina also trains kenjutsu. Hearing Makoto speak, Kushina was about to yell. But Naruto beat her, yes, I train kenjutsu since I was 4 years old. Then he turned to Kushina and with a little pink on his cheeks said, so you practice kenjutsu, Kushina-san, would you like to have a spar someday? Makoto gave Kushina a proud look, and Kushina gave her a pout. She turned to Naruto and with red face she said, yes, I train kenjutsu too, but I never had a teacher, and I would like to have a spar with you too. Kushina was thanking Makoto internally for starting a conversation that she knew that she couldn't do it alone. Naruto, hearing this, gave her a smile and said, that would be great. It's hard to find a kenjutsu user to practice. I don't have training this weekend, and would you like to spar then? Kushina, hearing this, was happy and reply, I would love to, so can you come at the Senju compound this weekend in the morning for a spar? Kushina was cursing herself, she was never this weak in front of nobody. Naruto quickly replied and said, I would like that a lot, I will be there at 9 a.m. Kushina, seeing that managed to accomplish her goal, gave a happy smile, and with that they continued to eat. Back at the classroom, Makoto was whispering to Kushina, what was that? You never are so soft. In the moment you stare at each other. In the compliments, Kushina-chan, do you have crush on Naruto? Kushina said, I don't know, I never felt so weak in front of another person. I don't think I have a crush on him, I mean he is handsome and strong and kind. Sume, hearing this, said, from the way you talk about him, it seems that you do have a crush on him, and by Naruto's commentary I think he likes you too. Kushina gave a sign and said, I don't know, I will talk it with Ka-san, I don't like feeling so weak. At the end of the classes, Naruto was surrounded by his fan club. Seeing this, Kushina frowned and thought of going and fight, but quickly shook those thoughts and started leaving the classroom, not without sparing a last glance to Naruto. Arriving at the Senju compound, Kushina was lost in thoughts when she entered the kitchen. At the kitchen, Tsunade was making dinner. So when she saw Kushina lost in thoughts, she cleared her throat and asked, how was your day, honey? Finally getting of her trance, Kushina replied, it was great, I managed to speak with Naruto-san. Seeing that Kushina got a little red, then she named Naruto. Tsunade asked, so how did that go? And with that, Kushina explained all her day to Tsunade, how Makoto invited Naruto to have lunch with them. Tsunade laughed hard when Kushina explained the awkward moment when she introduced herself to Naruto, what Naruto said to her about her looks. Kushina was red as a tomato when she remembered Naruto calling her beautiful, her conversation with Makoto and Sume of Naruto. So at the end, Tsunade understood her little girl dilemma, so she said, honey, from what you explained to me, you have a crush on Naruto-kun. I know it's hard to understand seeing that this is the first boy that you ever took interest in. Kushina understood and gave Tsunade a nod. Tsunade continued speaking, you invited him to come here at the weekend, right? Kushina gave her a nod. So how about you get to know him a little better this weekend? You don't have to rush to anything, just take things slow, honey. Kushina gave Tsunade a grateful hug and said, thanks Ka-san, so let's have dinner and training. I cannot let Naruto down with a poor spar. Tsunade gave her a small smile and they started having dinner. So the week passed by and Kushina only managed to say, hello, and goodbye, to Naruto all week, so she was a little nervous that he had forgotten of the spar. So gathering all the courage she had, went to Naruto and said, so Naruto-san, tomorrow is the spar, are you sure you can make it? Naruto gave her a small smile and reply, yes, I'm sure I will be going to the Senju compound tomorrow at 9 a.m, you better get ready, because I don't like weak people. Kushina gave him a nod and a goodbye and went to get ready for tomorrow. It was the day that of the spar. Kushina was beyond excited and stressed. She was excited because it is going to be the first time she spars with anyone, and was stressed thinking that she may not be strong enough and Naruto would simply leave her and never spar with her again. So to calm her nerves she was already training her stances since 8 a.m., she would be training earlier but she didn't want it to be tired for her spar. At exactly 9 a.m. Kushina was getting nervous. What if Naruto didn't came, what if he failed her? Not even a minute past 9 a.m. there was a knock at the door of the Senju compound. Kushina being the active girl she was quickly run to the door. Arriving at the door she opened and she saw Naruto there with his standard katana strapped in his back but without his jacket and with only a tight white shirt. Seeing that this new outfit made his muscles pop out, Kushina got a pink tone on her cheeks. Naruto seeing Kushina on a pair of small shorts and a red shirt, had a tone of pink in his cheeks too. Quickly gathering himself gave a small bow to Kushina and said, "Good morning Kushina-san, I came for our spar." Kushina heard this and leave her state of shock, and replied, "Hi Naruto-san, yes let's go to the training grounds." And with that they went together to the training grounds. At the training grounds Naruto and Kushina were ready to start so Naruto said up, "Only Kenjutsu, I want to see how good you are, come at me with all you got." Kushina didn't have to be told twice so she speed to Naruto. After what it seems like 30 minutes Kushina could not even land a hit on Naruto. She was getting frustrated. Was this the difference in power? Was she just wasting her time all these years? So her strikes were more and more sloppy. Naruto seeing that Kushina was getting sloppy said, "Kushina-san stop, you are getting sloppy." Hearing this Kushina dropped to her knees panting hard, and said, Am I really that bad? Did I really wasted all my time?" She was about to continue her rant but a hand on her shoulder shut her up. Seeing that Naruto put a hand on her shoulder, she was about to lash out against him thinking that he was about to mock her but Naruto quickly spoke first. "You did not waste your time, I actually think that training with no proper teacher and none to spar against it's really impressive, I think that you are at least high genin at Kenjutsu." So Naruto continued, "You make a lot of mistakes and you get angry too fast, way too fast for my liking, but nonetheless I think that you did not waste your time, I believe that with proper training you could become as good as or even better than me." Kushina was beyond happy that someone other than Tsunade believed in her. Naruto believed that she can become better than him, someone that didn't even manage to land a hit on him, someone that got angry and frustrated fast. Kushina was about to thank him but Naruto spoke first, "But if you keep training like this you will die easy, you have way too many openings, you desperately need a training partner." Kushina got a little angry but understood that Naruto was right so she made a question that she would never forget. "Naruto-san you are the only other person that I know that practice Kenjutsu. So I was wondering that if you would like to be my training partner." Kushina said this in a soft voice almost a whisper, but Naruto heard here. Naruto was surprised with this request but understood that it must be difficult finding a sparring partner, so with an evil grin said, "I would only accept to this request if you can land a hit on me, come at me with intent to kill if you want me to train you." Hearing this Kushina got a fire in her eyes never seen before and said, "You bet I will, prepare yourself, at the end of today you will be my sparring partner." And with that Kushina speed of to Naruto.